Could you tell me a little bit about why you think you like to keep physical artefacts?
As you said, they have associations to people in the family, to past events that link to those members of the family, particularly to family members that we've lost. So although I wouldn't consider myself a materialistic person, it's more about not the value of the item, but the value of the memory and the link to that person that that you hold on to that item as a way of maintaining that link, I guess. He was never a person for things and belongings. It was all about family with my dad, but his thing for tigers was just something that we tended to celebrate. And this one, I can't remember where I bought it, but I just particularly liked it because it's so tactile. It's got such a lot of times you find a china and they're very smooth and very nice to touch, but this has just got a different feel to it altogether, with the texture, with the grooves in it. And I just particularly like the expression on his face as well.
Can you think of the first time you ever found something that you wanted to keep for that purpose?
I don't know, in more recent history, I guess the two photographs of my dad that I've got upstairs, because that's a very painful loss, still continues to be that, and they're sort of a touchstone, if you like, a remember of the relationship we had and sort of certain times in his life. This is a canvas that my mum had made. It was a holiday to the Channel Islands. I think it was either 19 or 20, which was probably old in some terms to be still going on holiday with your mum and dad, but they were the last 2 years when it was the first time I'd been to the Channel Islands with them, and it was just a fantastic holiday. And looking back to see my dad looking so fit and well, he was a real sun worshipper. He loved having a tan, he loved being in the water, and that was on Shell Beach on Herne. And I remember we went a couple of times across from Guernsey on the ferry, and he used to lie there in the sand and just vegetate, and my mum and I would go walking off down the beach looking for shells, and he'd be quite happy just to lay there till we came back and then ask if we were going to collect a cup of tea. He always liked a cup of tea.
Do you think that you keep more items that relate to memories with people that have passed?
Yes, I think I probably do.
Why do you think that is?
Because memories fade as humans. We don't have the capacity to store memories indelibly, like the sound of someone's voice, the way they smell, the way they talk. You can recall certain idioms, certain mannerisms, but having those tangible reminders is sort of like you can almost grasp that memory physically, and you've got a link to, as I said, to something that's happened, a holiday or an event or somewhere you've been, and that just kickstarts your memory, I guess. That was the year, I think, when he first had cancer, when he had chemotherapy, and he lost all his hair. And his main photograph behind is got bittersweet memories, I guess, because that's when Dad was in St Luke's when he was terminally ill. Yeah, so Dad was a craftsman, and he was a proficient sign writer, and he got his City and Guilds certificate. And as a mature student, he went to Huddersfield and got his teaching certificate, and we were all really proud of him for that, because he left school at 14 with no qualifications. He was always really conscious about his handwriting and about the things that he couldn't do, but he got such a wealth of knowledge about so many other things. And he not only lectured at Shirecliffe College as was, but he had a fantastic relationship with his students, and he accepted them for who they were. He didn't try to change them, he accepted who they were, and he worked with a lot of students with disabilities, and that was something that I've always been proud of, that we've got in common, that we've always worked in education with people who deserve a second chance. And that was always my dad's mantra, that no matter what people go through in life, that they always deserve a second chance.
Can you think of any physical keepsakes that other people might have that remind them of you?
I guess things that I bought for close friends and family that are keepsakes, that when I see them, when I visit them, they're in their house, so I guess in some way they're a reminder of me, good or bad. This pair has sort of got bittersweet connections to my dad when he was in St Luke's. My children used to take put sweets in his backpack and take to him when we went to visit, because up until the last few days, when he wasn't able to communicate anymore, we used to go and see him and spend time with him, and that was always a point of contact, because it was obviously hard for my children to maybe fully understand that Pa wasn't going to survive. And when my dad passed away, the nurse said that my children could have the bear as a memento of Dad and a keepsake, so we took one in and gave it to them to replace it, so other children, other families in a similar position could carry on the tradition.
Do you feel like you need physical keepsakes in order to preserve your memories?
I don't know the need necessarily, but it's just something that I've always had. I would like to think that I'd still have the memories, even if I didn't have the keepsakes, but there are certain people that have passed and I still have very fond memories of them. I guess it's not a different quality of memory, I don't want to put it in that sense, it's just certain times you've got an impression of who they are, who they were, and what sort of impression they made on you and your quality of life. But the other things, like how they looked, how they sounded, things like that, tend to fade. And without a sort of keepsake, you really haven't got anything to pin those memories to, if you like. They're more esoteric, they're more sort of out there. It's more an act of will to recall them. I know I've lost friends and I have very fond memories, but they're not the same type of memory, if you like, as say with Dad, when I've got things that I can hold, that I know that he held, that has specific memories for our relationship. These things are particularly pertinent because they relate to my mum, who's still with us but has dementia, so her capacity to be with us in that sense is sadly diminished. But something that we've always enjoyed doing together is going to the local garden centre for coffee and having a wander around, because Mum's a very keen gardener and loves her plants. And on the day that I bought her this, unknown to me, she'd bought exactly the same thing, and when we got out to the garden centre and we swapped them over. This is something again that I've had for quite a long time, and my mum bought me, and it sits on my bed, it's there every day, so it's something perhaps you don't really think about in daily terms, but it's something that I treasure. It's just a simple cushion, but it's the message on it. So between myself and my mum and myself and my children, I think that it's a relationship that, although I was probably closer in a lot of ways, similar in temperament to my dad, I've always been very close to my mum, and she has been a fantastic mum and a fantastic nana, and it's just something that I treasure, that is important to me to keep that relationship going.
It seems quite an emotional subject. Would you like to take a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.